Do you think that poetry makes its point or argument better than other genres of writing? Why or why not?
Well, I'm not sure if there's always one point in a poem or argument necessarily. I mean, there are didactic poems, and there are poems that want to take you to a place or a kind of encapsulation of an idea. Some other poems can be about the sound. They're not. You can't really say that they're. This is the point of the poem. William Carlos Williams describes the poem as this perfectly functioning little machine with no excessive extra parts to it. There are various ways you can, for yourselves, have a metaphor of what a poem is or does. For me, it's very much a visceral kind of experience that stays with me. That's kind of haunting, and there's a trace, there's a hint after it makes me think more on something. It's not always an easy given solved problem. So there's something to chew on. I mean, that's when other kinds of poems, and I think a lot of my poems are directly almost didactical in ways. There is some sort of embodiment of an energy that's wants to rage or wants to sing a lullaby. I mean, when we would go out and protest at Rocky Flats, which was a place where the plutonium was coming in, triggers for warheads, and a lot of us in the Colorado area were very involved in getting arrested out there and so on. But we would go out and recite poems on the premises of Rocky Flats, which was, of course, illegal. But, so the idea of the poems was to bring attention to the toxicity of the situation, which was very close to where people were living, very close to animals, in this more rural part of the outside Boulder. And so we'd go out and, Ginsberg wrote his Plutonian Ode, and, it was often very spontaneous. So a poem like, mega, 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 death bomb in London. So that was a chant and a kind of mantra created for that situation, and then that could be performed in relation to protest of that particular situation. So this notion of particular pieces for situations that do have a kind of point. There is a kind of point there. But in these longer pieces, for example, the Manatee Humanity, that's a kind of meditation. It involved some investigation of thinking about this particular creature, of how it relates, how it stands in a way in the poem for all endangered creatures. The sound of the word manatee, humanity, became a rhythm and a bass note in a way for a sound or mantra for the whole text. And so in a way it started with those words, manatee, humanity, and the poem came out of that and was built out of that kind of meditation. So I think in meditation, you're going around, various ideas, and you're working in language to bring various possibilities. And one can always invoke the negative capability, which I'm sure all of you have heard of John Keats's negative capability. And negative capability is the ability to hold contradictory thoughts in the mind without any irritable reach after fact or reason. So you're invoking what I call both. Gregory Corso used to say, when you're presented with choices, take both. So negative capability is the notion of being able to live with the contradictions. And I think this is the world that we're in. We're living in a very contradictory world. We see, a lot of, beauty. We see a lot of suffering. We see, things that we feel we don't have control over. We're trying to be civic and citizens and get on with our lives. We have, very intense family connections and almost like tribal connections, if you will. And then we're studying. We're looking into other ways of thinking, other ways of creating work. We're also maybe, studying histories, learning about the history of our, where we are, the history of where you live, your locality, that sort of thing. So these longer poems, and I'm finishing up book 3 of a 1,000-page project right now. And that's a meditation that's been going on for about 25 years, which investigates war, patriarchy, and also my own realities. There's a lot of, personal threads as well, a lot of dreams, a lot of documents, letters from others, research. And it was seen as almost a feminist project to work with the epic form, which traditionally has been, stories of warriors and wars and histories of, whole cultures. You think of and mythologies, you think of Homer, of course, and the Aeneid was an interesting model because in some ways I think the U.S. culture is a bit like Rome, the idea of the empire. We've been so present everywhere in a very changing and difficult world, and just what is our role at this point? It's a very interesting time and challenging time. So for me, yes, the point, I go to poetry to try to understand what it is to be human in this world, what it is to be conscious, what is it, what can I learn from the history around me, what is the language saying, how can one create a language that's not just media language, not just, people telling you what they think, or angry talking heads on television.